And I always say, don't compare yourself to the next person.
Yeah, never.
Never. Because you're always going to live in that doubt and that fear. It's like, oh, I'm not like this person, not that person. Like, hey, everybody writes their own story.
Amen. Welcome to Becoming Epic, the podcast for the ones who are counted out, the ones who've been knocked down more times than they can count, but still get back up one more time. This isn't for the perfect. This is for the underdogs, the misfits with big hearts, the ones chasing purpose, not permission. Here, we don't just talk about success. We talk about grit, discipline, heart. We talk about the courage it takes to rebuild yourself when no one is clapping. Because becoming epic, it's not a destination. It's a decision made daily. So if you're tired of the average, the excuses, the same old story, you're in the right place. I'm your host, Adam Berezowsky, and this is Becoming Epic. Let's wake the warrior in you, and let's fucking go. Welcome back to the Becoming Epic podcast. My name is Adam Berezowsky, and again, week after week, I am pumped to be here. So this week's guest is a super special person. Like I said, every week, they kind of all are, and play a big role in not only in my business, but also in my life. And so this week, I got Coach Benny. I'm just kidding. I'm not going to go that long. So he's been actually working for me for the better part of a year and a half now? 2 years?
It's 2 years in August.
2 years in August. Holy crap.
It's the longest time I've held a job in like any gym.
No shit.
I swear to God, man.
Hell yeah.
Normally because it's like, again, it's all predicated on the environment that I'm in, right? But if it's a good environment and you can sell me on it, I'm in.
Damn.
You know, so.
We got that buy-in. I mean, also made you drink the punch. It was like part of your interview was like, here, you got to drink this. And
I got to do it. I got to do it.
Got to get that epicness up inside of you. And so, yeah, so he's a coach. His story's freaking awesome. He's diving into like his world of entrepreneurship, which we'll talk about as well. And so I want to introduce Benny. Yeah, let's kind of just start with who are you? Where are you from?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, like I feel like I'm a very private person. You know, nobody really knows much about me. But you know, I grew up in Oxnard, so I'm about 40 minutes away from
Oxnard.
Oxnard's in the house. Present the 805. Yeah, so I wake up 3 a.m. You know, Tuesday mornings to come over here, and as I was saying earlier, I really do love being at this gym because the buy-in was very important for me. You know, I can just I've been doing this for almost 10 years now. Just a little bit about myself. I've been in this field for 10 years. I started training people on the side for free. Yeah. You know, starting right out when I graduated college or high school, I mean. But yeah, growing up, I always loved sports. I knew I wanted to do something in this field. Yeah. I loved basketball. You know, that was baseball was my first sport. I sucked at it. No shit. Yeah, I went to basketball. And so I started pursuing basketball. And the story is, I tell people this story a lot, was I actually hated the sport before I even started it. Yeah, you know, started off on a blacktop, you know, had some friends playing. And they were like, hey, man, how about we go and play some basketball? I was like, I don't want to play basketball. I want to play kickball. I'm okay play because I'm used to play baseball. And then next thing you know, I they throw me the ball and I shoot it and I make it. I'm like, man, this is actually kind of fun. So I was like, okay, let's do it. And so that was about when I was 7 years old. So I started off with that. And then ever since then, you know, when I was in grade school and all that, high school, I knew I wanted to do something in fitness. I just didn't know what it was. I loved coaching. Coaching was obviously my thing. And, you know, it was, I played basketball in high school. I think one of the turning points for me actually being more serious about my fitness was when I was 11 years old, my dad passed away. Not a lot of people know that. Excuse me. So when my dad passed, I had high blood pressure and already had heart problems at 11 years old. Wow. Yeah, not a lot of people know that about me. Damn. You know. But it was one of those things where I said to myself, I can't keep living like this. And I give a lot of credit to my mom because my mom, I'm half Filipino. We went to the Philippines when I was 12 years old. And I remember, you know, I was just being that big old fat kid walking around, stuff like that. I was bullied when I was younger. So I was overweight, you know. Obviously, you know, I can't get mad at my dad. My dad, you know, I only had him for 11 years of my life, but he did what he had to do. He would want to make us happy. And so, long story short, we're in the Philippines, walking around. You know, my cousins are making fun of me. They calling me pig, I was all fat, you know. It was embarrassing. Yeah, you got your old cousins, man. If you're a Filipino, you have to have tough skin. Yeah, man. And I'm half. So I had to have all that tough skin, you know, especially with my cousins making fun of me and stuff like that. But, you know, just realizing when I had that high blood pressure and heart problem when I was like 12 years old, 11, 12, that I said to myself, I can't keep living like this, man. You know, I want to look good. That was my other motivation for why I wanted to get into this industry was I want to look good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And, you know, part of the driving force was, like I said, my mom. Because all we ate in the Philippines was, I kid you not, boiled fish, rice, and water. That's all we ate. And vegetables. That's all we ate.
Damn.
Played basketball. It was humid. I was sweating my ass off. Long story short, I lost a lot of weight. I came back 7th grade. I looked super lean. I was skinny fat. But then I kind of took off freshman year in high school. I knew I wanted to be in this fitness world when the first day of basketball practice came in. Our coach was like, hey, man, we're going to be lifting today. And I remember in my head, I said, oh, hell yeah. I'm so excited for this. I cannot wait to be lifted. And obviously, you know, like I tell everybody in the beginning, you know, it's just small steps. You know, I started off, I was very weak, and he told me, you guys are going to be sore. I said, I'm all for it. And I remember that first week, I was like, holy crap, I can't move my arms, can't move my legs, you know. And that's some of the things I tell people is like, you know, when you first start off at anything, it's going to be rough.
Yeah.
So you just got to embrace the journey.
Hell yeah.
It is not easy. And so after that, you know, I played 4 years in high school basketball. And my first job was actually a line cook because, you know, it was part-time. I was 18 years old. You know, I was training people on the side, whatever. And then, you know, I'd been eating a lot of food at the time. I stopped working. I didn't take it serious after. Then I always give credit to my mom for this one. My mom told me one day, I got home, my mom looks at me and she goes like, looks like you're gaining weight around your waist. I said, hell no, I'm not doing this no more. I said, nope, this is it. That was my turning point when my mom said, when your mom says you're getting fat, that's it.
Yeah.
I made it a habit of going to the gym 5-6 days a week.
Yeah.
I was doing 2-a-days. I was eating. And then all of a sudden, I was losing weight. My mom said, now you're getting too big. And I said, hey, you can't please your mom these days, man.
Yeah,
you can't please
sure.
your mom.
Best critic, yet worst critic at the same time.
Exactly, man,
Yeah.
exactly. But she was obviously, you know, very important in my journey, you know. She obviously, you know, instilled that in me, you know, discipline and proper eating habits, you know.
Yeah.
It's something I picked up. And then, you know, I started off at Ventura College. 2 years. I started off as a theater arts major. I wanted to be an actor.
No kidding.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, all the truth is coming out.
Yeah, I know. I don't really say this to people, man.
Yeah, so now it makes sense when you're out there dancing and singing around on the floor trying to entertain people.
It comes out a little bit. It comes out a little bit. You have to get to know me a little bit more. But,
yeah, I dig that.
Yeah, man. And I remember I had my, it's funny enough, I ran into my old French teacher because I used to coach a club basketball and her stepson was actually on the team. And then we ran into each other. She's like, hey, so what are you up to these days? And I was like, oh, yeah, I'm in Ventura College. You know, I'm doing theater arts. And she looked at me and she goes like, why are you doing theater arts? That's not going to get you anywhere. And I said to myself, you know what? And I that was for me, as I look back at it, almost like, was it like 10 years later, I said to she was like, I was like, she's right. You know, because at the time I was only chasing the money, but I wasn't chasing my true passion. Mm-hmm. And so I took a step back and I said, what do I really love? And lo and behold, I love kinesiology. I love training people. I was like, you know what? How about we do a complete 180, 160, and, you know, just get back into fitness. And so that's how I started off with fitness. So I did 2 years at VC. I transferred to Cal State Monterey Bay in 2017. Did undergrad. It's funny enough, I was actually a wellness major, you know, because, you know, with wellness, you're going to health promotion, all that fun stuff, community health. And then they had exercise science. And to be honest I'm going to be straight honest on this podcast. I only did it because I did not want to take chemistry. I hated chemistry, anything like that. I was like, I'm not doing it. But I love anatomy. I love physiology. I love exercise physiology. I love all that stuff. So I went to school for that, you know, did all my undergrad, did that and stuff like that. Graduated in 2017. And then all of a sudden in 2019, I, you know, pursued my master's degree. I went to Cal Baptist online. And, you know, at the time, you know, with COVID hit, you know, I was doing it and it was really, it was fun. You know, I loved every step of the way. Like I said, I don't have any regrets about what I did, you know, in my past because, you know, you can't live your life with regret.
Amen.
Yeah, that's my saying, you know, hey, you either live or you learn.
Yep.
So I learned
and
I got my kinesiology degree in that same year. I got my NSC. I'm certified through the NSCA. I got my CPT, Certified Personal Trainer. And this is to talk about perseverance. They have the Certified Strength and Conditioning Specialist, the CSCS. And I remember a funny story I always say is like, I was in my dorm room freshman year, or it was my dorm room. And I'd always be studying like 7-8 hours a day. Like I put in like a true work day studying for that exam, only to fail it.
Nice.
Only to fail it. And then I was like, I said to myself, you know what? And to be truth be told, I didn't even finish the book. I didn't finish studying it. I said, man, I got this. Whatever, dude. It was like $400. I was like, whatever. You know, so I pissed off $400. failed it by 2-3 questions. And then so after I failed the first time, I was like, why didn't I take the CPT? And I took it and I passed it with flying colors. So I had my CPT already.
Awesome.
And so I restudied again for the CSCS, failed it the second time by two questions. And finally, the third time I took it, I passed it by a couple questions. You know what I mean? Because it's bisection. So I passed that. But I mean, so that's for me, that was one of the hardest exams I've ever taken. But, that means so much more to me because I put so much work into it. Yeah. And obviously, it cost a pretty penny to do it at the time for me. Yeah. But it was one of those things that was very rewarding. It's like, nobody can take this from me. And I always knew I loved sports performance. That's why my background is what it is. That's why most of the stuff I program here, there's some element of like, whether it be some sort of lateral movement, jumping, something like that. That's where my background kicks in a little bit, my programming and stuff like that. And I've worked with almost every population. I tell people this, like I've worked from youth all the way up. My oldest client was like 72 years old at one point. So it's like, you can't tell me anything different. I always tell people nothing changes with the person or nothing really changes with the movement. It's just how you it's just the individual because not everybody can do certain things like a 27-year-old versus a 50-year-old. You know what I mean?
What do you mean 72-year-olds don't do 36-inch box jump?
Hey, if they did, I would be very shocked if they did.
I mean, we have them here. They're pretty badass. So
hey, man, I haven't, but if I could see some, I'll be excited. You know what I mean? Yeah. But yeah, man. And so that was obviously, one of the things that really means so much to me was getting that certification at the time and stuff like that. And, I always kind of lived with a chip on my shoulder. You know what I mean? I was always kind of, like I said, I played high school basketball. When you're a part of losing teams, all you know is how to lose. Yeah. Kind of numbs you a little bit. So I'm used to that already. So that's why it's like nothing phases me no more. I kind of learned to, push through, and stop, I can't settle for average. And that's kind of why I like this gym too, is like, there's no average. Can't be average here. And that's the one thing I picked up real quick was like, if you're average, you're probably at the wrong gym. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Shameless epic plug right there.
Yeah, I know.
But it's so true because it's like people will come here. They're like, oh, there's above average people. I don't fit in. And then that's okay. Like, it's a certain type of person that is surrounding us for sure.
Exactly. You know what I mean? And I always say, don't compare yourself to the next person.
Yeah, never.
Never. Because you're always going to live in that doubt and that fear. It's like, oh, I'm not like this person, not that person. Like, hey, everybody writes their own story.
Amen.
You know what I mean? Like, just my story is going to be different from your story. It's different from everybody. So at the end of the day, it's like, what's unique about you that you can apply into your life? And so I tell people that a lot. And that's why I always tell everybody who's brand new here, I said, hey, don't feel like you have to hang with everybody, go at your own pace. I want to make sure that, you're having fun. That's number one. You have fun and you enjoy, and my thing is like, I always say this, with anything in my life is like, if I can make a person's day who's having a bad day, if I can make them smile, laugh, even if they yell at me or get mad at me, hey, I win. Because I got some sort of emotion out of you. Yeah. You know what I mean? And after that, so I kind of transpired into something that, earlier that you mentioned. Me and my brother and my friend, we're going into our podcast. We're doing podcasts, and we have a basketball podcast, Dummies on the Hardwood. Follow us. Spotify, Instagram, TikTok, you name it, YouTube, we're on. Yeah. So we decided to do that because we all have a shared passion of basketball. Yeah. And that's the one thing, that I took a step back and I sat down. And I remember this, and this is another thing I remember when I was freshman year and, sitting in my Avid classroom. I took Avid. And I was like, man, it would be really nice, if I could have my own podcast or talk show, or like thinking about working for ESPN when I was young, because that was my thing growing up watching sports. I was like, that would be really cool to just work there, get to talk basketball, because I have a genuine passion. Like I could talk about it all day with anybody who's open and willing to talk to me about it. But I remember when I was freshman, I was like, man, that's so much fun, and then here we go, like almost like what? 11 years later, I'd be, lying to you if I didn't say that, man, I didn't think I'd have my own podcast with me and my friends. And so we're embarking on this journey. We've had this podcast for over a year. We started off as the Authentic Experience. That didn't work out. But again, it's trial and error. You have to learn. Yep. So we did the first time, didn't like it. So we took a step back and said, all right, fellas, we took a 3-month break and said, okay, what are we going to do different? How are we going to, work on this and get this better? And so that's when we started to, delve into our podcast now, Dummies on the Hardwood. because we're three dummies, you know, as I always say, we're podcasts for the 7th, 8th, 9th, and 12th man off the bench. You know, that's what I tell people, man, because, again, it just goes with the chip on my shoulder. You know, I was always overlooked, you know, growing up. And so I've always lived with that chip on my shoulder. So that's what fuels me and motivates me to become good at what I do. I don't really like to, I know people see me around here, like, you know, I'm engaged, I'm talking, but if you really get to know me, I'm a really introverted person. I keep to myself a lot. I don't really spill the beans to everybody, but, you know, what fuels me is to get better. And, you know, that's why I love being a part of this gym, is because, like, you know, obviously yourself, you're very motivating and you push me, you know, like whether you think you do or not, but, you know, you push me to become better because I see what you've done. And I say to myself, I know I can do that. You know, and I'm only 29 years old. Life is, you know, I've still got a long life to live. But I mean, just, you know, watching everybody around me who's been successful and stuff like that, I'm like, man, if they can do it, so can I. You know, and I always tell people, man, if you've already created a story on why you can't do something, you've already psyched yourself out.
Yeah.
You're not going to win. Like if you say, like, you know, and I remember it's a prime example. If you want to do a box jump, and you're like, oh, I can't jump. Mm-hmm. Well, you've already said you can't jump. You either jump.
Whether you think you can or you think you can't. You're right.
Exactly. That's so powerful, man. That's a true quote, you know? Yeah. And, you know, hey, even if you jump and you fall, lose some skin on your shin in the process, hey, man, you got to learn.
And how many people walk around here with a slice on the shin?
Oh, man, I can't even imagine.
Quite a few.
I remember, you remember Greg?
Oh, yeah.
Greg, we had a class where we did that, and he scraped some of his shin. And I said, man.
Oh, yeah.
Welcome to the club, man. Welcome to the club.
It's like the brotherhood scar.
I know, right?
I got him too, right there.
I know. I don't think I got any right now.
Yeah.
So.
I don't know. Well, let's kind of unpack all that, because I think that there's a lot that we can hit on because, you know, feeling like you were, you know, being bullied, you know, I think a lot of people can relate to that at some point in their life. Feeling less than, again, I think everybody's their own worst enemy. Like what lessons where have you developed the grit to persevere because of how much people have said, you're not worthy, you're not good enough? Like, where do you feel like your grit has come from all that?
Well, I mean, you know, it kind of does help when your brother is a therapist. You know what I mean?
Not only a therapist, but a twin.
Twin, yeah. Twin. See, I didn't tell everybody that.
Yeah,
Nobody
he's got a
that.
twin. And when they're here, it's very difficult. But like, now we know who Benny is.
Exactly.
But yeah, it definitely does help that your brother's a therapist.
Yeah. But I mean, also too, like, you know, for me to overcome all of what I encountered when I was a childhood, for example, you know, when I lost my father at 11, I tell people that's not easy losing a parent.
Yeah, not at all.
Never easy, you know. And I can remember one of the things I said to myself was, you know, I was in denial of, you know, when I tell people this, when you watch your own parent die in front of you, which is what happened with me. I saw my dad literally dying right in front of me. Like you can't erase the memory. Like it's still there. I can imagine my 11-year-old self watching him. But one of the things I've learned was to accept it, you know, because it's as painful as it is. I tell people, like, you have to accept where you're at in life. Yeah. Don't look at it as either really good or really bad. You got to look at it for what it is. Yeah. And so when I saw my dad pass in front of me, there was years where, you know, like right now as we're talking, if I was telling you right now, you talked to me like a few years ago, I'd be crying already. But because I've processed it and I've accepted it internally, like, hey, you know, this is the way my dad's life was supposed to be, you know, it's helped me become the better person who I am today. Yeah. You know what I mean? And
for sure.
And then just watching my mom, you know, single mom, no job. My dad was in the military, left her a great Social Security, whatever. And my mom, you know, she did what she could and she did a damn good job, you know, what she did. You know, I tell my mom that. I always say, you know, anytime I get a chance, I say, Mom, thank you. You know what I mean? Anytime, you know, just tell everybody tell all your loved ones, thank you. Yeah. You know, because it's just those small things and that makes a big difference, you know? And so I guess for me, it's just, you know, understanding like I can't control certain things in my life, but I can control how I react to it. Yeah. And so I did a lot of the work that I had to do to get better at that, process it, you know? And, you know, just accepting that, hey, you know, this is just the way the outcome is going to be. Yeah. You know, that's why I tell people, like, you know, there's really nothing you can do, you know, like you can't control what other people think, you know, you can't control your surroundings, you know, people are going to think what they're going to think, you know, and life moves on, you know, and the sad reality is nobody cares about your problems. That's the harsh reality. Yeah. So you sitting here telling everybody about your problems, nobody really cares. And that's why I tell people, man, if you walking around unhappy and sad, man, you really got to take a look at yourself, man. It's like, it's not worth it. It's not worth it.
And I think like losing a parent too, like it's something that like not a lot of people go through at a young age, that it does create like this like level of internal strength. Because, you know, there's so many times that we go through our life, it's like, oh, this thing that we're going through is so hard, right? But then it's like losing a parent has got to be like the hardest thing, right? Because it's like I mean, most parents die before their children, right?
Absolutely.
I think the other end is like when the child, or when the parent loses a child, is probably a little bit more detrimental in that sense, because it's like you should never have to bury your child. But there is that level of like like learning to make it through that at such a young age has developed like this level of grit, this level of discipline, knowing that like, yeah, life can take you at any moment. Like there's no specific, time, but it does, you can't be the victim to that. It can't be like, oh, I was victimized by my father because I lost him. You've taken that story and of like, honestly, I'm sure he's shining down proud as fuck of you.
Yeah.
By not only the person that you are, because it's just like even some of the things that you say, yes, you think, being 29, this day and age is pretty damn difficult, but it's like you went to college, you got a degree, you got a master's, like you've done so much in your short amount of time. And now you're going off on this entrepreneurial journey, which is hard as hell.
It is, man.
But like it takes grit, it takes perseverance, it takes, like the dark days. I mean, we've talked about it, and like the days you want to give up and just, I always say this, but it's like I've stood in my gym with a match, like, all right, fuck it, let's just light it all on fire, right?
Man.
But it's like, but I think the life that you've lived has given you the development process to be able to make it through anything. And, whether you get 1 view or 10,000 views on your podcast, like you're going to keep on rolling because that's just what you do.
Absolutely, man. And when it's interesting you say that, I always tell people, one is always better than zero. You always have to look at it from that perspective, man. Yeah. Just when you think you have it worse, someone else has it worse than you.
Always.
So, that's why I tell people, nobody gives pardon my French, nobody gives a shit about your problems.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's why control what you can control at this moment right now. And that's one of the things I've really worked on with myself is like, I can't control the future. I can't look back at the past because either way I'm going to create anxiety for myself. Yeah. So what good is it me to sit there and think about it? Yeah. Obviously, again, I'm not saying here, don't, ignore that feeling, but you got to learn to sit with that and those nasty feelings. You know what I mean? I mean, like I said, when I lost my dad at 11 years old, I mean, he passed away the day after Christmas. So, I mean, can you imagine like a, 11-year-old, I remember I was on my knees, I was like, hey dad, look at the gift I got. You know what I mean? It hurt me, it hurts a lot. But, I guess one of the things I learned was like, hey man, just life goes on, dude. I mean, my dad, if my dad was alive today, I wouldn't even be talking to you right now. I'd be in Georgia. I'd be down there because my dad wanted to move there as soon as he retired and got better. I would have been down there, and I would have never met you. I would have never been here. So I look at it as like the universe. This is what the universe intended for me. I'm in a prime spot. I can't even complain. I'm in Southern California. I love what I do. I love where I live. I love the gym I'm at. I wake up 3 a.m., 3:15, about 3 a.m. every day, every Tuesday. Just to come here and set up. But the thing is like, I can sit here and complain. I could tell you, I'm tired. I don't want to come in today. I could do all this story, but what good is it going to do for me? Nothing.
Yeah, for
Nothing.
Sure. Yeah. But I think that's like, again, like it's passion over like, or what it's always, it's passion over income or whatever it may be. Cause so many people like go ahead and chase the dollar, but it's like, find me a person that has been working 30 years for a job they hate, that they actually love their life. Right. And it's like, I'm a person that tries to push people to do like live their dreams. Sometimes I push too hard because they're like, I just want to feel safe, and they're too scared of what a possible good outcome could be. I mean, there's risk in every choice, but in my opinion, like the greatest risk in life is not taking any. And so it's like I would way rather, either help someone take the risk and like mediate the pressure and like live a great life versus like stay miserable for another 10 to 15 years. And then when you're 70, 80, whatever, when you're able to retire, then you get to live your life. Like, hell no.
No, man. It's like, and then when you really look at it from that perspective, that's why, every time somebody tells me what dreams they want to do, whether it be like, I want to mow lawns for the rest of my life. Great. If you want to do that, great. If that's what you want to do long-term, make it into a great business, by all means do it. I'm never going to tell anybody. That's just how I am. I never tell anybody. I never shoot down anybody's dreams. Yeah. You dream what you want to dream. You know what I mean? As long as you take the consistent steps. And that's what my problem was in the beginning when I was on this journey was I thought, I got it, and that's why I wanted to become an actor. It's like, oh, it's easy money. Everybody would know me, blah, blah, blah. I get all this fame, but man, I didn't really put the work in. I really didn't. I just was like, man, you know what? It'll come to me, you know. But again, it's just like finding that balance, but you got to put in the work. You got to do the small steps, you know. It takes, you know, like I said, you know, you can't steal second base if you have your foot on first. You can't do that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like you miss 100% of shots you don't take. And, you know, I guess that's why I was saying earlier, like I haven't been a part of a gym where there's a culture that invites growth, because I've worked a lot in corporate gyms. Like I tell people, like I've worked in every gym area you can think of. I was a fitness manager at one point. I was a front desk attendant. You know, I was a trainer. I did it all. So nobody can tell me anything different. I know how each position works and stuff like that. So, you know, with that, it's just kind of one of those things where I said, you know what, hey man, like it's what it is. You know, it's life. You know, and like I said, you can control what you can control, but you know, you get what you put out.
Yeah. And I don't want to place like, you know, every time I've like visioned my gym, it's like, yes, I love that my coaches want to work here. Like there's not one person here that has to work here. Everybody wants to work here, which is a blessing.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's like, our team is so great. Like, you know, going go-karting during,
that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, during Christmas and stuff, and like doing our team building. But like that is an environment where everybody should be around. You know, it's an environment of growth. It's not just like, oh, accomplish this small little goal, right? Lose weight or gain muscle, or, you know, like, you know, get educated, you know, find a different job, whatever. It's like this whole life movement that you have to do, but you have to use your story as like a propellant, right? Because it's like you're using it as a propellant and not an anchor. Like if you use your story as an anchor, who knows where you would be if you were just
exactly
like the victim of your life. But you're like you're now a leader, right? Because you lead people here, you lead people in your life. You're leading your own life. You know, finding passion is like an easy way to do that. Most people, they're like, you know, it's like, what's that one thing that you can't stop talking about all the time? It's like, figure out what that is and then find a way to make money doing that. Cause I'm sure that there's a lot of other people that like the same shit.
Absolutely.
You know, it's like basketball. Like I'm not a sports guy. I was like the last picked in every team that I ever played on.
I can see you.
Benched warmer, yeah, towel boy,
Dodgeball?
yeah, dodgeball.
Were you that dude, were you that kid where every time it's like, hey, get him?
Yeah,
Just throw that ball at
yeah,
him.
for sure. Yeah, kick the ball over the fence and go to chase it, and the fence close and run right into the fence. You know, yeah, totally.
That was you.
Yeah, but like, you know, I've never used that as like an anchor in my life, right? So it's like you want to be able to excel in that. And so let's talk about your podcast. 'Cause I think it's, you've been working on this for the better part of a year.
Yep.
Like again, I can't talk about basketball. I don't know much about it. I have a really good friend that plays or used to play.
Yep.
But like,
and I watched him growing up.
yeah. And that's the extent of it, you know, like I don't know like much. I've been to games. I like going to games. You know, but like, what is it about it that makes it so passionate for you, like in the sport, and then being able to like try to build a business around that?
Yeah, I mean, so for me, what it was, you know, as I said earlier in high school, like I was always sitting on the bench, you know, and that was, for me at the time, it was unfairly justified because I quite frankly thought like I was better than some of the other players. And, you know, again, I can't control what the coaches think, you know what I mean? It's what it is. But, you know, when you sit back as an observer, you know, you can kind of see, you know, the players around you. Like for me, I've gotten to a point where I can tell like which players or, you know, whatever, which team is going to be good, which player has the talent, which player is like a little raw but needs a little bit more work. And so for me, that's where the fun comes into play. Cause because I'm very like, when it comes to basketball, and I coached it too, so I can understand different schemes, different plays that the opposing team wants to run or something like that, you know? And that's where all my fun comes in, because it's just all about like, okay, what's happening on the next play? Because again, you can't control what they're doing.
Yeah.
Only they know what they're doing. So like you can only anticipate it. So that's for me where I'm like, man, this is so much fun. Like I take a lot of passion in this. And when I look at other players, like, you know, I'm all about, and again, when I'm a coach, like I look at development. I want to see the development of the player and the person, you know, throughout their career, or, you know, whatever team they're on, stuff like that. And, you know, it was always one of those things where, you know, me, my brother, and my friend, we'd always, you know, at lunch, we would just always talk about, when we were in junior high, we'd always talk about something. Like we talk about All-Star Weekend, we talk about, you know, what's going on with the Lakers, whatever. And I'm a Celtic fan, so, you know, I get a lot of crap for that being around here. Yeah.
But Celtics in like the 80s and 90s were like,
Oh yeah, I'm
Yeah.
sure you know. I'm sure
Oh,
you
yeah.
know. Yeah, I mean, I grew up with Paul Pierce. He's my favorite player one of my favorite players of all time. But I mean, I just love, I just have a genuine love for the game. I guess it started because, like I said, I hated it at first, but then I began to learn to love the game. And it took me so many places. I stopped playing after high school because I wanted to focus on my fitness, and that's why my background's in sports performance. Because like if I can help these athletes and propel their performance to the next level, whether it be a millimeter, an inch, and improving their weight, that's where I get that true passion from. So I understand the physicality, and the toughness that it takes to play the game. And, my brother and my friend, they're obviously more analytical and stuff like that, looking at the mind, looking at the stats. I look at the players and how they play and stuff like that. And I'm very open-minded. I tend not to be very closed-minded like most people, but it's just, I want to turn this into something where I can inspire other people, because not a lot of people, again, like we said, people are afraid to take the first step. Mm-hmm. And so one of the mission statements that me and my brother wrote down was, we want to be able to inspire others to pursue their passion. And then it doesn't matter what the passion is. We want them to pursue our passion. One of our core principles is impact. If we can leave an impact on someone's life, if we can make someone laugh, we can make someone say, man, you guys are such idiots, man. I don't want to listen to your podcast no more. I was like, great, that's fine, because we got something out of you. That's great. So I guess it's just all about leaving that impact on people, and inspiring others to pursue their dream, because I understand this is going to be an endeavor. Yeah. And everybody does podcasts, I've been told, I remember I had someone tell me, it's like, well, everybody does podcasts. And so when I heard that, I said, you know what? All right. So that tells me a lot about your mindset. Everybody can be a trainer, but not everybody's a trainer. Yep. Mm-hmm. Everybody can be a businessman, but no one wants to be a businessman. Yeah. So that tells me a lot about the person. So I said, you know what? I don't associate with people like that.
Drown out the noise, baby.
Yes, sir. So I'm all about just like moving forward, and if people are supportive of me, great. You'll be a part of my journey when I make it to the top. If you're not, you can go ahead and sit at my doorstep.
Amen.
You know what I mean?
What do they say? Like the view from the top is so lonely, but the view is just amazing.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, because it's the journey up where most people are scared to even make the first step to do something. And I've heard it too, especially in my podcast. We're like, oh, everybody has a podcast now. It's like, yeah, but not everybody makes it in podcasting. And there's a big difference between the two. Because I don't know, there was these great stats. It's like there's over 5 million podcasters, but only half of them actually have more than 3 episodes. So it's like that already takes away 2.5 million podcasts. So it's like the field is actually very small, but it's just like the media is pushing podcasts because that's just what people are watching. I mean, there's more podcasts get more views than most TV channels get views.
Absolutely.
It's like they did a stat on Mr. Beast. I mean, granted, he's got a YouTube channel. It's not a podcast, but he gets more views than the Super Bowl. Yeah. It's like his channel is worth more than the entire NFL. So it's like, don't sit here and that noise is just everybody else's insecurities that just try to force you into it. And no matter what, everybody's going to have their opinion, especially the people that don't do it. And I think they're my biggest fans because they're the ones that just keep watching, baby.
And they're going to be talking, and it's the same ones. They're going to be talking about you, know? And that's why I say, I know everybody's going to be talking. Like, I've had comments just like, man, podcast equipment should be so expensive these days. I know. And that's one of my favorite comments. And I just laugh, and I'm just like, you know what? We use it as fuel. You know what I mean? And that's where I guess I learned to drown out the noise. Yep. And, again, losing a parent, being bullied and all this stuff growing up, and again, everybody has their own life story. But for me, it's just one of those things I use as fuel to be like, all right, I'm gonna make sure everyone remembers who I am one day. You know what I mean? And that's my motivation, is like I said, also to just leaving an impact, and being around great people like yourself and a bunch of other people, who, have made it, stories about it's not easy, there's one guy who I met recently. He told me he was homeless at 13 years old. Wow. So when you sit and think about that, it's like, man, you really want to complain? You really want to complain? I'm like, dude, anything is possible. You got to take the risk.
That's when you learn a lesson. Is that homeless at 13? Man, I couldn't even imagine.
I can't even imagine that, man. But it's just, again, it's like we said earlier, it's the stories. Yep. You want to write a good story? Great. If you want to write a story about how bad your life is, hey, it's just your choice.
Yeah. No, I think that's huge. And, again, I have to give you kudos just because, especially in the basketball space, I feel like there's a lot of people that will try, but it's like, not only did you go through a name change already, ideas when we've talked about creating your purpose statement or having core values and, and all that stuff really does tie it together because it's the people that don't that end up saying, oh, this is a stupid thing. And they don't end up making anything of it. But even if you don't do anything with it, and even if you don't make money, if you love doing it, who gives a shit?
Yeah, who cares?
Yeah. And I think that's what pisses me off the most about people when they tend to voice their opinion. It's because I look at the person that is voicing the opinion. I wouldn't want to live their life.
Oh no.
So it's like, I don't,
No.
so like, why would I even value your opinion?
Yeah, exactly. It's just all noise to me, you know? And I mean, again, it's just always, you know, everybody's got something to say.
Yeah.
That's the one thing I've learned. You can't please everybody in life.
Yeah.
But again, you can control how you react to it.
Amen.
You know what I mean? But you know, when you just put your head down and you focus and you say, this is what I want, I don't give a crap about anybody else and what they have to say, then that's when the true success comes out. And so that's for me, it's just, you know, and I asked you in the beginning, you know, like, you know, what do you obviously, you know, how do you overcome days where you only get like 10 views, 5 views? And like you said, you got to keep pushing.
Yeah.
Because all it takes is just one video to do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you know, and one of the other pieces of advice I got from one of my close friends, he told me, he said, like, number one thing is you want to get your systems in place, lock down your systems in place. And whenever you're struggling and you feel like there's no hope, look at your mission statement and remember why you're doing what you're doing. And I always say, I want to inspire others. That's my passion.
And I think you nail it, because I talk about systems so much, and it goes hand in hand with life and business and, you know, anything else that you have going on, because without proper systems, it just becomes a noise that you just can't control. And that's where success lies, is in systems and mission statement and passion. Because again, if you're not passionate about what you're doing, you're never going to be successful at it. Even if you did make it and you're making the money that you want to, or the impact, because again, it's not just about money. I think it's impact over income. That's what it was. No, I just,
There it is.
Yeah. Because even in my mission, it's 100% impact. It has nothing, you know, my bank account does not reflect my success at all. It's the fact of the stories of my involvement in someone's life that made the jump to do this, to do their podcast, to finally get out of that bad relationship, to finally do the things that they've been wanting to do, but never had the courage to do it in the first place. So it's like, you know, that noise of the people like, oh, just, you know, and and again, like, that's just that pure, like, watching, keep watching, because my systems will continue to get dialed in each level of my life to overcome whatever it is I have to face.
Absolutely, dude. Absolutely. And for me, man, you know, obviously, you know, like I said, you've definitely had a huge impact on what I do and why I'm pushing myself to, you know, step out of my comfort zone. Right. And also too, you know, and another thing that I do it for, you know, I look at it with fitness too, how I tie it into fitness and stuff like that is, you know, when I lost my dad at 11, you know, it stings, it sucks. You know, there are days where I still think about him and wish he was here. But what I took away from that was, at some point when I do have my own children at some point, I want to be able to, I want to be with them for as long as I can.
Yeah.
And that's my motivation for being into fitness and doing what I do, because I want to be able to be there for my kids when they get older, when they have their own kids, you know what I mean? That's my driving force, you know, and that's why I take my health very seriously. Another thing that most people don't know that I do is I do cold showers. I do cold showers. I hate the heat. You know, I prefer sitting in a cold shower.
Interesting.
It's really weird. Yeah, I know. I've been doing cold showers now, and, you know, it makes me feel good because it also builds that level of discipline.
100%.
So it's because you sit there in cold water, it's a whole nother ball game.
Yeah, there's definitely nothing relaxing about a freezing cold shower. Have you ever done it where you turn your shower on hot and then you turn it to cold for like the last 5 minutes?
I've never done that.
Try that.
Really?
You want it? It's kind of like the cold plunge kind of ideology, but like, and there's this 75 hard program where like phase 2 is you have to take a nice cold shower, at least the last 5 minutes of it.
Oh man.
And but it is, that creates a level, because it's uncomfortable for as much as like cold and ice and all that stuff. Like, you know, even putting an ice pack on a like a hurt muscle or a bone, whatever, it stings, right?
Absolutely.
But imagine standing in it. Yeah, no,
I can't even imagine.
Yeah, but again, like, I think that creates that level of discipline of what you're building for your life, that is going to not only reflect your business, your relationships, because again, like, you know, yes, you might be here only one day a week, but your impact is huge. For example, we had a text yesterday, because our new system of that goes out if people don't show up for a few days. Like we have a system that, reaches out, like, we miss you.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, we're not coming back until Benny and Sean come back. And it was me coaching. So I sent them a picture. I was like, well, what about me? And all I got was a thumbs up. I'm like, this freaking shit. So,
where's the love?
So that just shows like your level of impact and just in, 2 years being here now in August, he said.
Yeah, it was August. It's so funny.
It's up on the board. I have to go look
August
at it.
23rd. I think.
Yeah. But I mean, you've been a big blessing in my business for sure. You bring a level of, you're very different in how you coach, which I really like. How you build relationships is very similar, because it's like people don't just come here just to work out. They come here to feel good. They come here for relationships, to find their people, right? Because it's like people go to bars and they end up hanging out with their people, and that's an unhealthy habit, so it's like people come here for that. And so I'm super thankful for the impact that you've made in this business in a short amount of time. And then, watching you grow and,
yeah, man.
Always talking about your podcast, which I think is super fun. So vision wise, like where do you see yourself in like the next 5 to 10 years, like with the podcast or whatever?
Obviously, I always say, I told, me and my brother made a pact, and we said the jobs we work right now, we want those to be our last jobs.
Yeah.
Ever. So ideally we want to be billionaires, that's my vision,
Yeah.
I speak into existence. I've been putting it out there, and my friend, he's been, very super helpful, as well as yourself, because the sky's unlimited, there's unlimited potential, again, so I'm speaking out to existence. I want to be able to live the life that I want to live.
Yeah.
And most importantly, man, if I could truly, I always say this, if I could give back to my mom in any way, shape, or form, if I could give back to the people who helped me in any way, shape, or form, for me, that's a win. You know what I mean? So this is who I do it for. And, it's going to be a journey, just like I always say and tell myself, it's going to be a journey. It's going to be hard. But at the end of the day, if my mom can do it, and, if she came here to the U.S., wanted to come to the U.S., she met my dad, and now she's a U.S. American citizen. She's the first of her family to come out here. Oh. Yeah. And so my mom did it. If anybody can pursue their dreams, then so be it, and that's what I say to myself. 5 years from now, I'd probably be in a coast somewhere, Miami, anywhere else, with my friends from Australia, just going down there. Chill on the beach, looking at the ocean, just crystal clear blue and stuff like that. And just coming over here now and then saying hi to you or something like that, Oh,
no, you're coaching every Tuesday. I don't give a shit. We're having how successful you get. There's no, yeah. So it's like, you better make your plans from Wednesday to Monday, and then you can come back on Tuesday, and then I don't give a shit what you do the rest of the week.
Yeah, man. I mean, but honestly too, like I can see myself being here for a little while longer, just because, like I said, there are days where I did tell you, I wanted to get out of here at one point, but I said to myself, again, it was the stories I was telling myself. It's like I was complaining, I was whining, I was like, but it's like, dude, like I'm in a gym. I haven't had this much fun coaching at a gym.
Yeah.
Like there are days where like I come in and I'm just excited, I'm like, man, this is going to be fun. You know what I mean? And it's funny. Like I tell people this, sometimes I write a workout on the board and I'm like, I think it's a little too easy.
Yeah.
In my mind, I don't know if you get that feeling too.
All the time.
Yeah. It's like, this is a little too easy. But then there are days when I write the workout, and I'll do it always the day before, and I'll put it up on the board. I'm like, oh, this is going to be a good one.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. There's definitely some excitement in the test phase of a workout, because sometimes I'll test in the middle of class. I'm like, all right, let's just run it, see what happens.
You're very different from how I do it.
Oh yeah. I'm very different how everybody else does it. They're like, oh, I planned this 6 weeks ago. I'm like, well, I planned it this morning.
I can't do that, man. I gotta have that from me. But that's crazy. Again, for you to be able to do that's really good.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's it's just the relationships I built here. You know what I mean? Yeah. Just when I always say, I think I want to leave, I don't want to leave.
Yeah.
I tell people that. It's like, I tell my brother, it's like, man, I do want to leave, but I can't, man. There's something about the place. You know what I mean? There's something about the place. And that's why I genuinely just love the people I work with. I love the members here. They're all awesome. And like I said, this is the longest time I've ever been in a gym. And I think what was important for me is the culture.
Yeah.
It's the culture, and obviously, like I said, you have a great leader who sets the tone from the beginning, and who's just easygoing, super laid back like me. I'm like, well, this is going to be easy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So yeah, man. I mean, obviously you've definitely had an impact on my life. My brother, he's super, grateful for the advice you've given us and whatever facet when it comes to our journey through entrepreneurship,
Yeah.
And it's great to know that, if I need anything, I can turn to you, and, you're not shunning me away. You're always super supportive, whether, You're honest about it. I love it. I love the honesty. I don't like people who lie to me. You know what I mean? So I really
just to tell you what they think you want to hear. Those types of people, they're like, yeah, you know, it's cool, but then they're like, oh, that's a stupid idea behind your back.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, I'd rather you tell me. But no, yeah, like I said, you've been super impactful. Everybody here's had an impact on my life.
Yeah. No, I'm proud of it. I'm proud of you. You know, I'm excited to see where you take your entrepreneurship. It's a very lonely road.
Oh, I can't
People
imagine.
don't understand it, you know, and like when you try to explain it to them, they'll never get it because if they've never driven down that road, it's, you know, it's something that it's just, you just don't know. So keep grinding, keep doing it the way you have been. You know, even on the view side, if that one person watches your entire episode and that's the only view you get, at least one person was entertained out of it. And that means that they got something from it and taken away from it. And so that's my motivation for doing it. Cause yeah, there's days where I'm like, oh damn, this one did pretty good. And this one's like 3 views. And I'm like, oh shit. Like,
oh, man,
you know, it's
rough.
It is. Right. But then it's like, you need to like start compartmentalizing that energy and just putting it into like better production, better whatever, like, you know, just keep grinding forward, you know, and that's just how we roll.
The small things, man. You know, like I always tell people, you know, especially, you know, working at a rehab, one of the things I always tell people is like 1 is better than 0.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I cannot emphasize that enough. You know, even if you have $1 in your bank account, you're $1 richer than the homeless person out there on the street. I always tell people that, man.
There's a lot of truth in that statement. Hell yeah. All right, Benny. Well, I freaking love this conversation. And, you know, I hope people, you know, learn a lot and get a lot of value out of it just because, you know, your journey is hard, right? Everybody's journey is hard.
Absolutely.
You know, but it's just like your story doesn't define your future. It's like who you are and what you do with your past then defines your future. So proud of you.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I appreciate you getting me on. You know, it's, you know, for those of you who don't know me now you kind of know me.
Well, it's a song. If you didn't know, now you know.
Don't know.
Oh, if you don't know. Yeah, that's what it is. Well, yeah, like plug your podcast. I know you did already, but like Dummies on the Hardwood.
Yeah. So we are on all platforms, Dummies on the Hardwood, YouTube, Spotify, TikTok, Instagram. We're on X too, Dummies on the Hardwood, shirts right here. Yeah, feel free to give us a follow, support us, you know, throughout our journey. And we couldn't be any more grateful for everyone who's, you know, been a part of this journey. Obviously, like yourself. But yeah, just show the love. I tell people, become part of the Hardwood fam.
Yep, Hardwood.
Wood.
I appreciate you, Benny. Thank you for coming on.
Yes, sir.
Great. You drove all the way from Oxnard to here, so I appreciate it.
I appreciate it.
And we'll see y'all on the next one. Peace. I'm stuck.
That's it for today's episode of Becoming Epic. If something stirred in you today, don't let it fade. Take 1 step, 1 rep, 1 bold move. You're not here to play small. You're here to rise, rebuild, and become who you were born to be. Remember, average is easy, epic is earned, and the only way out is through. I believe in you, but it's time you believe in you. Subscribe, share, join the movement, and I'll see you in the next one. Now, go be epic.